Good evening everybody. So today we will continue with the lesson chemical reactions and equations. So in the last session we ended up with listing out all the types of chemical equations or chemical reactions, isn't it? Types of chemical reactions. So we had 5 important chemical reactions, naming them combination reaction, decomposition reaction, replacement reaction, double replacement reaction, and at the end oxidation and reduction reaction, which is also called as redox reaction. So we will get into each reaction and understand them with examples and some of the activities. Okay, so the first reaction is combination reaction. As the word suggests, combination is combining 2 or more elements or 2 or more compounds. Okay, so we are going to combine, and which will yield us a result which is as like how we define chemical reaction. Okay, how did we define chemical reaction? Any 2 elements or compounds combine together to form a product, right? 1 or more product will be formed. But here what happens is that those reactions in which 2 or more substances combine to form a single product. It is always single product. We don't get multiple. So let us take an example of hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. What do they combine to form? They combine to form water. Okay, if we want to try to balance them, it is 2H2. So if you see here, we have 2 element molecules. Okay, so which means 2 substances. There can be more, because here the definition says 2 or more. You can have even 3 reactants here, but the product is always single. So this is an example for combination reaction. Similarly, when in the initial class or in the beginning class, we took an example of magnesium ribbon. So that is also a combination reaction. Magnesium ribbon reacting with oxygen forms magnesium oxide, isn't it? So this is an example again. Okay, this is an example for combination reaction. You see there are 2 reactants, there is only 1 product. Okay, so how can we define this? 2 or more substances combine to form a single product or substance. Okay, hope it is clear. Okay, so these are the examples. Like that, more and more examples you can work it out. But remember, there should be single product. Okay, then moving on further. So you can remember like this. It is a combination. So above the arrow mark, if you write combination, it's nothing wrong. Okay. Then further, so we were, I think one of our students took an example of calcium carbonate, isn't it? So formation of calcium carbonate or slaked lime, all those reactions are also a part of combination reactions. Then similarly, hydrogen gas reacting with chlorine gas to form hydrochloric acid is also an example for combination reaction. So it gives 2HCl, isn't it? Single product, multiple reactants. There are many more like this, so you can go through each examples. Calcium oxide reacting with water to form calcium hydroxide is also an example. Let us say calcium oxide is reacting with water. Okay, this is calcium oxide, this is water, which gives rise to calcium hydroxide. Okay, so this is all an example for combination reaction. We will move on to the next type of chemical reaction, that is decomposition. Okay, so please understand this word decompose. Something was combined, now it is being decomposed, which is being removed. So this is exactly opposite to combination reaction. Here we will have a single compound. Okay, let us say there is a single compound like this, or we can take water again. So this compound is going to break, it is going to get decomposed to form multiple products, or sometimes there can be more, two or more products given here. Can you understand? There is only single reactant. We cannot call it as a reactant because it is not reacting with anyone. It itself is getting decomposed because the ions are going to break down here and they give rise to multiple products. So this is decomposition. So if we have to define that in a proper sentence, reaction in which the compound splits up into two or more simpler substances is known as a decomposition reaction. Okay, let us take an example of calcium carbonate. Okay, so which was earlier told by our friend. So it gives us CaO plus carbon monoxide, is it? Okay, it is carbon dioxide actually. So in order to make this calcium carbonate to break into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide, we need to supply some external energy. Like we discussed in yesterday's session, there are some more information that we can learn from a chemical equation, that is heat can be provided, which I told delta. Okay, if you provide heat to this material, it gets broken up or split into compounds or elements like this. So decomposition will require heating effect. So heating effect is required or heat is required. Understood? So we have two examples here. A single compound got broken up into multiple pieces. So if we have to define this, a single compound or a substance splits into two or more substances. Why are we using the word substances? Because we cannot say elements or molecules or compounds here. Because in the first reaction you saw, we got molecules. In the next reaction we saw, we got compounds. So there are possibility of getting elements, not elements usually, molecules or compounds. Hence we are using a general word substances. Okay, so this is about decomposition reaction. Here we have a couple of activities to do. Let us do them. Activities are experiments which prove decomposition reaction. Okay, we are still under decomposition reaction. We'll take up. Okay, so I told you for decomposition reaction, heat is required. Whenever heat is required to break up a compound, it is called as thermal decomposition. So how can we define this? Use the same definition. A single compound is broken up or split up into two or more substances using heat. Okay, you have to add that word using heat or by using heat energy is called thermal decomposition. The same definition of decomposition reaction added with heating, we get the definition of thermal decomposition. Okay, then let's conduct an activity. Activity is, so for any activity you need to draw the diagram, steps and a chemical equation, which is must and should. Further, if you get any questions about describing an activity, diagram, steps and chemical equation. So this is a test tube. Test tube is provided with, it is being burned. Okay, heat energy is being provided. Okay, inside the test tube we have some materials. I will tell you what are those. Okay, so step number 1. What happens? Take about 2 grams of ferrous sulfate crystals. Ferrous sulfate crystals. Okay, what is this ferrous sulfate? FeSO4. This is the formula of ferrous sulfate. Crystals means, so you have seen sugar and salt. Salt means the rock salt, not the powdered salt. So how is sugar to touch? It is like crystals, right? So ferrous sulfate is also in the form of crystals. It is not smooth or it is not hard. It is in between crystals. Hence I have written them in this shape. Then what should you do next? In a dry boiling tube. Okay, you have to take that in a test tube which is dry. There should be no water or any moisture inside the test tube. It should be cleaned thoroughly. Then the ferrous sulfate crystals are green in color. So many of us would have not seen ferrous sulfate, which is green in color. Okay, which are all available in the chemical laboratories. Then what can we do next? The step number 2 is heat the boiling tube over a burner by keeping the mouth of the boiling tube away from yourself and your neighbor working in the laboratory. So this is a burner which is a laboratory apparatus which gives fire. So this is ferrous sulfate. This is a test tube. Okay. Now we are burning and they are telling us to take up precautions because in chemistry or chemical laboratories, since there are chemicals, acids and many dangerous chemicals which we will be working with, we have to take some precautions like wearing the apron or gloves, closing our mouth or other things like that. So here they are telling keep away from the mouth of the test tube. You don't stand near the test tube because you know what are these lines? Those are the gas, the sulfur gas which is coming outside, which is dangerous. We should not inhale that. If we inhale such gases, our cells will die inside and there will be toxic materials generated. Okay, so what they are telling, heat the test tube, then keep away. Okay, I just use the word keep away. You can mention detail. Don't stand near the mouth of the test tube or avoid your neighbors to stand near that. Then the green color of ferrous sulfate crystal first changes to white and then to brown solid. So we know that according to characteristic of a chemical equation, there will be change in color. So green color is first changed to whitish color and then it becomes brown solid. Okay, initially we took solid, it is still a solid, there is no change of state. As we have studied the characteristics, there is change in color but there is no change in state. We took solid and we are also having solid again here. Okay, and these gases are sulfur gas. Okay, so this is what happened. Finally, the gas having the smell of burning sulfur comes out of the boiling tube, which you have to stay away from. Okay guys, solid remains solid, but here we got gas, right? So there is again change of state. There is part of change, not the complete changeover. Okay, so this is the experiment. Now we need to write the chemical equation. Diagram is done. We have understood the steps. Let us write the equation. Okay, I'll erase this. So what is which kind of example is it? It is thermal decomposition because there was a single reactant. We cannot say this as a reactant, it's a single substance. Now, what did we do? We provided heat. So hence this is a thermal decomposition. Now what should happen here? It has to get split into multiple substances. What happens? Fe2O3 plus SO2 plus SO3. So what is this? Initially I told you FeO is ferrous oxide, Fe2O3 is ferric oxide. Okay. What is SO2? It is sulfur dioxide. So this is sulfur trioxide. Can you see there are 3 oxygen atoms? So it is sulfur trioxide. Okay. So this is ferrous sulfate. So which is a perfect example for thermal decomposition. We took the ferrous sulfate which is solid, we heated that and it's got split into multiple substances: ferric oxide, sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. Okay, so this is an example for chemical decomposition reaction or thermal decomposition. Fine. So tomorrow I will take a question regarding this. I might write an equation and ask you to describe the steps, or I will ask you to write the equation by yourself. Okay, so be very attentive. Hope it is clear, guys. Okay, that is all about this activity. Now, there is another activity under thermal decomposition. There are actually 3 activities. So hence, this activity is very important. Means this decomposition reactions are very important. There are 3 reactions which we have already, 3 activities which we have already completed, which was an example for thermal decomposition. The next one which we are going to do is also a thermal decomposition because heat is being used, which is lead nitrate is heated strongly to get substances like lead monoxide, nitrogen dioxide and oxygen. Okay, let us write the steps and diagram. So again, take a test tube and there is some material here. Burn that. Some foams go out, which is similar to the previous experiment, but here we use a tong. Tong is a holder, okay? So it is being holded. This is a test tube. Okay, now I will list out what are the materials. We will take step by step. First step is take about 2 grams of lead nitrate powder in a boiling tube. We have to take 2 grams of lead nitrate. Guys, we have already learnt about lead nitrate, which is PbNO3. Okay, PbNO3, chemical formula of that. Now, this lead nitrate is taken in a clean and clean test tube which doesn't contain any water or moisture. Sorry, we have to write it as twice. Then, so what color is this? Which is colorless. Colorless in nature. Now, hold that boiling tube in a test tube holder and heat it over a burner. Now you will be heating that by fire, and what happens? Brown fumes of nitrogen dioxide gas are evolved, which will fill the boiling tube. There comes the brown fume. Means a kind of gas will come out which is brownish in color. Brown fumes comes out which is nitrogen dioxide. Okay, what is the gas? It is nitrogen dioxide. Since we had nitrogen and oxygen components here, which gave us nitrogen dioxide. Then what happens? If a glowing splinter is held over the mouth of the boiling tube, it catches fire and starts burning again. This shows that oxygen gas is also present. So you have to bring a glowing splinter. I'll tell you what it is. See, so we know that to burn anything we need oxygen. For combustion, oxygen is an essential gas. So near the mouth, if you bring a burning splinter, a kind of combustible material like a paper or anything, but paper will not work out in this experiment because for paper a little bit of fire has to be given, then it will start burning. But glowing splinter is a kind of candle or something which is already glowing, okay, which you bring near the mouth of the test tube, which makes the splinter to glow even more. What does that tell us? If it is glowing even more, then which means oxygen gas is being supplied. Correct? So combustion is increased. So glowing splinter is brought near the mouth of the test tube. This shows oxygen gas is present. Okay? So this is all about the activity. Now a yellow solid is left behind in the boiling tube. This is lead monoxide. After this experiment, there is a kind of material left out which is yellowish in color. This yellowish color is lead monoxide. Sorry, what is it? Yes, lead monoxide. Lead monoxide is PbO. Pb is like O is monoxide, only one oxygen. Now shall we write the chemical formulas and a chemical equation? What happened? We took 2 grams of lead nitrate. We burned that. Lead nitrate was colorless gas. Slowly we observed a brownish fume came outside the test tube, which is nitrogen dioxide. After that, we brought a glowing splinter near the mouth of the test tube and we got to know it was burning better. So that told us, or that made us understood, another gas which is coming out is oxygen gas. And at the end we see an yellowish solid. It is a solid left out in the test tube, which is lead monoxide. Okay. Now let us write the chemical equation. So lead nitrate, which was heated, what did we get? Initially we got nitrogen dioxide, then we got oxygen. Oxygen is usually molecular state, and we also got lead monoxide. Simple. This is a single compound which was heated. It gave us, or it got splitted into multiple substances, which is an example for thermal decomposition. So 1, 2, third one is left out. We'll see that activity now. So very important activity, electrolysis of water. Okay, it is electrolysis of water. So why electrolysis of water has to be conducted? Because water is capable of conducting electricity. So when does that conduct electricity? When it is in molecular state or in ionic conditions. So water contains hydrogen and oxygen, where hydrogen and oxygen has to be split out. When they are splitted out, we can generate electricity out of it. So for that splitting purpose, we use decomposition reaction method. Okay. So far we were studying that decomposition used heat, but decomposition reaction also uses electricity. Okay. So there is water. Water is not heated, it is electrolyzed. So electricity is being provided. Finally, it is a decomposition reaction. So we get H2 and O2. Okay. So we will conduct this experiment. So this is a very important experiment. So the diagram is like this. There is a beaker kind of material which is opened at the bottom, and there is a rubber inside inserted to that, and 2 test tubes are inverted. Straight test tube is like this. This one is inverted. Inside the test tube, we will place 2 copper rods. I'll tell you what is the purpose of using that. Then connect the copper rods to a battery. Okay, battery means you are supplying electricity. Okay, we are not heating this, we are supplying electricity. Then what are we going to put inside that? Nothing, it's just water we are going to put. Of course, some water also gets into the test tube. If the water doesn't get, you need to take water in the test tubes and then invert. There should be water inside the test tubes also. Okay, so this is a kind of setup. Now, we will describe each. So we have to hold this, right? Let us put a stand here. Okay, we will describe what are these things. This is a glass bottle or a beaker. Okay, without a bottom, there is no bottom. So mention that without bottom. Then there are some inverted test tubes. There are 2 inverted test tubes. Then this is water, and as I told, these 2 are copper rods, okay, which are extended out till here, and then they are connected to the external source. This is a battery. So it says that to conduct this experiment, for about 6 volts of current has to be used. What is the 6 volt? 6 volt is voltage is the pressure which you give for the electrical charges to move. Okay, I gave you an example in physics, right? You are walking, okay, but in running race you cannot walk and win the race, so you have to run. So you are increasing your speed. Similarly here, the charges are going, but that slow movement is not enough. So we need to push them. To push, we need pressure. What is the pressure? 6 volt of current is provided. This is a kind of voltage. Next, then we have switched everything here. This is wire, all that is understood. These are carbon rods. I'm sorry, it is not copper rod, it is carbon rods. Okay, we are using 2 rods, right? So one will be anode, other one will be cathode. What is this anode and cathode? One carries positive charge, whereas the other carries negative charge. So the negative charge carrying rod is cathode here. This is cathode. So here negative charge goes, means in the battery the minus sign is connected to cathode, whereas here plus sign is connected, and this is anode. This is anode. Okay. So now everything is set up. There is a clamp. Now we will understand. For the first few steps, you describe the experiment. Take a glass bottle without the bottom. Pour some water into it. Place 2 test tubes inverted where there are 2 carbon rods connected to an external battery. The 2 carbon rods acts as cathode and anode. Okay, everything is described, right? And supply about 6 volts of current. Everything is described. Now, what happens inside that beaker? That we have to describe. So you need to add a little bit of sulfuric acid. So sulfuric acid is added to enhance this activity or to make the action quicker. Okay, so you need to add sulfuric acid, which is H2SO4. Apart, there will be a lot of water, but very little sulfuric acid added. Then what happens? You see that when you supply electric current, slowly the water inside the test tubes comes out. There will be only empty test tubes will be left out, and slowly will absorb gas will be filled, because if there is gas in this atmosphere we cannot see that properly. But if you bring a glass medium, for example, if I am breathing, you cannot see that gas, but if you can bring, if there is a glass bottle or a glass vessel which I keep near my mouth and you breathe, you can see the gas inside. It gets covered with a kind of moisture or whitish color, right? So here also you start observing there is gas is getting filled up. Now what will you do? Take each glass test tubes, inverted or straightened, bring a burning splinter. Keep it near each test tubes. At one test tube, the splinter burns very brightly, which tells us there is oxygen gas inside that. At the other one, it may not burn well. That tells us there is hydrogen gas. It is obvious, right? Because we conducted experiment where we are breaking the water. So water gets broken up into hydrogen and oxygen only. Oxygen is a combustible gas, hence the splinter glows well, whereas the hydrogen will not make that splinter to burn faster. Okay. So this is about decomposition reaction, which is an example for electricity. The first 2 activities were about heat. The last activity is about electrolysis, that is providing electricity. Hope it is clear. We will move on to the next. Similarly, using electricity, the aluminium oxide can also be decomposed into aluminium metal and oxygen gas. There is no activity given here, but it is an example. And in decomposition reaction, heat is used, electricity is used, and light energy is also used. So for light energy, we can take an example of silver chloride. Okay, silver chloride is, let us see this, which are very important for the MCQs. Okay, silver chloride is AgCl2. which gets decomposed using light energy. Okay, who is giving this light energy? It is the normal sunlight. Sunlight falling on silver chloride, which gives silver and chloride to get decomposed. Like water got decomposed, here both these elements gets decomposed. Fine. Okay. So what is that energy which is being used here? Light energy. So this can also be asked as an activity where light energy is used. The first two were heat, the third one was electricity, the last one is light. So how can you write the steps? Take about 2 grams of silver chloride and in a china dish which is whitish in color. This is white in color. Place the dish in sunlight for some time. Keep that silver chloride, which is like a salt, okay? Keep that in sunlight for about some 1 or 2 hours, and you observe that silver chloride turns into greenish white. You keep it for some time in the sunlight, white color turns into greenish white. Okay, this is the last activity for decomposition reaction where light energy is used. We have the chemical equation. There is no diagram for this because sunlight and a small dish, that's all. Okay, there is no proper diagram for this. So this is about decomposition. Inside our body also decomposition reactions takes place. For example, we consume proteins. Proteins gets decomposed into what? Amino acids. We consume carbohydrates. It gets decomposed. Glucose we take in, which gets decomposed into carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates. Like that, we consume oil and fat, which gets decomposed into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, so this is decomposition reaction, and which is widely used in the nature to manufacture some of the compounds. Let us say we obtain some ore. Ore is a kind of material which is obtained inside the Earth's crust. That contains precious metals like gold, silver, iron, etc. So how will they extract? They will extract using decomposition reactions. Okay. So this can be a 1-mark question. What are the uses of decomposition reaction? So the next type of chemical reaction is replacement or displacement reaction. Okay, so it is displacement reaction. What is this word displace? Okay, somebody is sitting in a chair, he gets up and another person occupies that space, which is called displace. Okay, it can be forcefully or yes, most of the time it is forcefully. Okay, that is called displacement. Now in the chemical reactions also, we will have 2 or more elements or compounds in the reactant side. One of the element in the first reactant displaces the other element in the second reactant, which we will see in the product side. Okay, so how is it? If you have seen the acid and base reaction, which is a neutralization reaction, which is a very good example for replacement, which is also an example for double displacement reaction. We'll take an example. So copper sulfate, this is copper, this is sulfate ion, which combines with zinc to form zinc sulfate plus copper is separated. Okay, so copper sulfate is aqueous, zinc is solid, this is again aqueous, this is solid. Okay, they are also mentioning the color here, blue color, blue solution, this is silvery white, this is colorless, then this is red or brown or combined color. So observe here students, we have copper sulfate, here there is zinc. Who is replacing whom? Zinc is taking the place of copper. So zinc took the place of copper here and it formed zinc sulfate, and copper got isolated. It became a separate element. So this is called displacement. One element takes the position of other element in the reactant. It can be from the first reactant or with the second reactant, or from the second reactant to the first reactant. Now, why is this displacement happening? Because the zinc is more reactive than the copper. Reactive is what? We ask a question for about 20 students in a class. A student who is more reactive, who knows the answer, will raise his hand and he answers. He or she will answer. Now we call that as a reaction. There are other 19 students left out, but who is more reactive? The student who got up and answered. Similarly here, compared to the copper, zinc is more reactive. Because it is the one which replaced copper, right? So here we write zinc is more reactive than copper. Okay? So this is an example for displacement reaction. How can we define this? Those reactions in which one element takes place of the other element in a compound is known as displacement reaction. Those reactions in which one element takes place of the other element in a compound is called a displacement reaction. Okay? So we'll see one more example. So the same copper sulfate reacting with magnesium gives us magnesium sulfate plus copper is separated. What does this tell? In this reaction, one element replaces other element of a compound. Hence, this is called a replacement reaction. Mg replaces Cu, which means Mg is more reactive than copper. Okay? So that is about replacement. We have an activity here. Let us see that. Okay, take about 10 ml of copper sulfate solution. First step, 10 ml of copper sulfate solution in a test tube. What color is it? It is blue color. So which is blue in color. We have to take this in a test tube. So we took a test tube, 10 ml of copper sulfate solution. It is aqueous in state, isn't it? So this is CuSO4 aqueous state, solution state. Then what do we do with that? Then take a big iron nail and clean its surface by rubbing with the sandpaper. You should take a big iron nail. Iron nail is made up of ferrum, right? Ferrous. You have to clean that before putting that into this solution. Why do you need to clean that? Because the iron might contain rust or it might contain water, moisture or any other things. Sometimes the iron nail may be painted. So we have to remove all the external chemicals because our reaction will be affected. We need only iron. So this is iron nail is rubbed with sandpaper. Now put that inside this solution. Okay, it should be completely submerged. Okay, 10 ml is here. It should completely get submerged into that. Then you observe that for about put the clean iron nail in the test tube and allow that to remain in the copper sulfate solution for half an hour. So leave that for half an hour. What happens then? It's the same test tube, but what happens? The reaction. So we see that after half an hour, take out the nail from the copper sulfate solution. We will find that iron nail is covered with red-brown layer of copper metal. We take out that iron nail, which is covered with reddish brown metal. So earlier, let us say this was blackish in color because iron nails are blackish in color, right? Now it is reddish brown color. Why is it? If we look at the test tube, we find that original blue color of copper sulfate solution is faded. This was bluish in color. Now it is faded. Faded is it has become dull. The color has got dim. Okay? Now. So what is this faded color is? The solution turned into green due to the formation of iron sulfate. Later, if you keep this solution for another 5-10 minutes, this turns into greenish color. This is iron sulfate. Okay, we had copper sulfate here earlier, which became iron sulfate. Then what happened to this iron name? It had become reddish brown color. So let us write the equation, chemical equation. What did we take? We took CuSO4. Then what did we do? We added the iron name for that. Correct? This is a solid. This is a aqueous solution. What happened? FeSO4 formed, and as I told, Fe will replace Cu, which became iron. Cu is what? The reddish brown you are observing. Ferrous sulfate is the greenish color which you are observing. Copper sulfate is the original blue color. Okay? So this is the reaction. So it is replacement reaction or displacement. Ferrous is more reactive than copper, hence it replaced in the compound. Fine? Clear? So that is all about displacement reaction. Now we will move on to double displacement reaction. Okay, so before getting into double displacement, why are these elements getting replaced or displaced? Because if you observe from the beginning, I am using copper sulfate solution and which reacted with zinc, iron, magnesium. So all the zinc, iron, magnesium are metals. So metals are more reactive. If you observe the periodic table, metals are in the, if the periodic table is like this, it is in the left sides, right? So metals are more reactive compared to non-metals or metalloids. So hence they are capable of replacing or displacing. Okay, next moving on to double displacement reaction. As the word itself says, there is double displacement. In the previous reaction, we saw one element replacing another element. But here, there will be two elements which replaces two other elements in the compound. Okay, we'll see that. So, if we have to define that, those reactions in which two compounds react by an exchange of elements, which forms two new compounds in the product side. So, they are taking an example of AgNO3. AgNO3 is silver nitrate, which is reacting with NaCl, which is sodium chloride. Basically, solutions are taken. Silver nitrate solution is added with salt. This is sodium chloride salt, which is solid in nature usually. Okay, in this experiment they have taken aqueous again. The salt is put in water and that solution is poured with silver nitrate. What happens? As I told, each one reacts with other. So Cl will make a combination with Ag. So we get AgCl2. Then Na combines with nitrogen and oxygen ion. So that forms NaNO2 or NO3. Okay? Yes, NO3. So this is a salt. AgCl is a salt. It is solid. And NaNO3 is aqueous. Okay? So this is silver nitrate. Sorry, silver chloride. This is sodium nitrate. Okay? So clearly observe, students, that Ag combined with chlorine to form silver chloride. The nitrate ion combined with sodium to form sodium nitrate. So which is double displacement, right? Two elements combined with other two elements. It is mutual exchange. Totally displaced, right? The compound became a different compound here. Here this compound also became a different compound. So this is an example for double displacement. You can take acid-basis reaction, NaCl plus NaOH. Okay? NaCl with water. Putting NaCl with water, what do you get? You get NaOH plus HCl, which is a salt reacting with water, gives you a base and a acid. Okay, so Na combined with OH ion. Similarly, an H combined with chlorine ion to form sodium hydroxide and hydrochloric acid. All these things we will study in the next chapter, acid, bases and salt. Okay. So this is an example. We have one activity here. We are coming into the end of this topic. So activity is, take about 3 ml of sodium sulfate solution in a test tube. 3 ml of sodium sulfate, NaSO4, sodium sulfate in a test tube, which is aqueous, right? They are telling 3 ml of sodium sulfate solution. Then in another test tube, take one more test tube, take 3 ml of barium chloride. 3 ml of barium chloride, BaCl2. This is also a solution. Okay. 3 ml, 3 ml. Then add barium chloride slowly to the sodium sulfate solution. Take this barium chloride and put it back into sodium sulfate. Slowly. You have to pour this into this. What happens? A white precipitate of barium sulfate is formed at once. So in this test tube, after pouring, let us say we have poured. So white precipitate, characteristic of a chemical reaction, precipitation formation. A white powder will be formed, that is barium sulfate. Okay, we'll write the reaction now. NaSO4, sodium sulfate combined with barium chloride, which gave us sodium sulfate is Na2SO4, which gave us barium sulfate. So this combined with sulfate ion. So what is left out? Sodium chloride is formed. This chlorine will go combine with sodium. Okay, chlorine combines with sodium to form sodium chloride. Understood? So this is the product. Two types of exchange has happened. Done? So we are coming to the end of the topic. The last reaction is oxidation and reduction reaction. Okay, what is this oxidation? So if we observe in this nature, most of the reactions are either oxygen involving or oxygen evolving. Either oxygen will be taken in or oxygen will be given out. Because this atmosphere is made up of gases, right? More gases. And for most of the burning or combustion reactions, oxygen is necessary. So any reaction where oxygen is added or oxygen is gained is called oxidation reaction. It can be any reaction where oxygen is taken or gained or added. All the things are same, right? Added, taken in or gained is called oxidation. Reduction is exactly opposite to that. Any reaction where oxygen is removed, taken out or loosed. Oxygen is removed. Okay? So these reactions are called oxidation and reduction reaction. That together called as redox reaction. Understood? Now there is another way of defining the same oxidation and reduction. Wherever there is addition of oxygen, there will be removal of hydrogen. Okay? If you say this is oxidation where oxygen is added, in the same reaction hydrogen will be removed. Okay? So hydrogen is removed. If oxygen is added, hydrogen is removed. What happens here? It is also opposite. If you say removing oxygen is reduction, then what is getting added? It is addition of hydrogen. Okay? So you can define both the ways. Addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen is called oxidation. Removal of oxygen or addition of hydrogen is called reduction. Together they are called as redox reaction. Redox. Now we will take an example for this. That is oxide is reacting with hydrogen gas and we provide heat to this. What happens? CO gets separated and water is formed. Now we will observe what is the oxidizing agent or the reducing agent. Closely observe, hydrogen is added. Correct? Hydrogen is added. What is adding of hydrogen called as reduction? So in the left hand side of this chemical equation, reduction is happening. Coming here, oxygen got added, right? Earlier there was not oxygen with the hydrogen. Oxygen got added, right? So this part of the reaction is called oxidation. Am I talking sense? Hydrogen is added, reduction, which means oxygen is removed here. There was oxygen which got removed. Observe here, oxygen got added, so hence this is called oxidation reaction. You people might get confused. We'll make a small rearrangement. We'll make an arrangement. What happened here? So copper oxide became copper. Copper oxide became copper. What is happening from copper oxide to copper? What is the changeover that is happening? Oxygen is getting removed. Oxygen is going away means what? It is reduction. I think now it is clear. Then observe here, hydrogen got transformed into, hydrogen changed its state into water state. So earlier it was only hydrogen. On the way it got oxygen. So oxygen got added up. So this is called oxidation. And means oxygen is added. Here oxygen is removed. Understood? Or you can see the other way. If you take the reverse reaction, what happens? From, I have told you yesterday, some reactions are bidirectional. So if you see it from this way, the water became hydrogen. So oxygen going from this side got eliminated. Sorry, hydrogen got eliminated, not oxygen. Hydrogen got, one second. Okay, whatever I have written, it's correct. Let us not take the bidirectional. Oxygen got removed, reduction. Oxygen got added, oxidation. Okay, so that is about the redox reactions. Now, since we are talking more about oxygen, so oxidation reactions will cause certain problems. Okay, so there are some effects of oxidation. Because when oxygen gets into few things or few compounds, it creates problem. So the two major problems which are faced is corrosion and rancidity. Corrosion is the metals will be eaten up when oxygen comes in contact to that, especially iron. Okay, so yesterday I told you iron bridges are made. Okay, so iron bridges are exposed to atmospheric air and it is exposed to rain. So if rain falls on it, which means H2O is falling. H2O has oxygen. If it is exposed to atmosphere, oxygen gas is being come. Okay, oxygen gas is going and breathing. So now what happens? This iron combines with this atmospheric oxygen or water to form an extra product called rust. Okay, rust is formed. Iron is a stronger material whereas rust is a weaker material. So you have seen a rusted iron piece can be easily broken, whereas a newly made iron piece, a strong iron piece cannot be broken up easily. So if the bridges gets rusted like this, or the metallic furnitures, the doors, anything which is made up of iron, most of the vehicles uses metals, correct, cycles and other, the body of the car and other things. If they are not well maintained, if they are not painted often, they get rusted. So corrosion happens. Corrosion means eating up of the metals due to addition of oxygen. Okay, then what happens? They get damaged or they become unusable. And if the bridges all fall, then it creates problem to public. maybe deaths will happen or there will be no transportation system to go. So this is one problem, corrosion. The other problem is rancidity. So we prepare food items made up of oil. When this oil or fat items come in contact with oxygen, they combine. Let us say a fat combines with oxygen to form a new product called rancid. Rancid is toxic in nature or poisonous. If you consume this rancid materials, that will create food poisoning or sometimes it may lead to death also. So how will we avoid rancidity? So rancidity can be avoided, and right here, rancidity should be avoided or it should be prevented. To prevent that, you can add antioxidants to your food materials. Now let us say we prepare an item made up of oil or fat. So along with oil and fat, you add an antioxidant. One good example is BHA. BHA is an antioxidant which is butylated hydroxyanisole, which is a chemical made in a laboratory. Butylated hydroxyanisole. Butylated hydroxyanisole. I will send you the notes. Which is an antioxidant. If you add a chemical into the food which is made of oil or fat, which will further not allow oxygens to enter, because this is called an antioxidant. See, if you get bacterial diseases, what is injected to your body? If you get bacterial fever, antibodies are injected. That is chemical which can fight against the bacteria. Similarly here, this is a chemical which will prevent the oxygen to enter the food material. Okay, so that is one method. Next method is rancidity can be prevented by packaging the food and the oil foods containing nitrogen gas. So you can add nitrogen gas. You have seen food materials like Lay's and potato chips packets. What they will do? They will fill that with gas. The quantity of the chips will be less, but there will be almost 50 to 60% gas will be filled up. So what is the gas? It is nitrogen gas. Nitrogen gas is a non-reactive gas. We could have filled up with carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, right? Those are all more dangerous than oxygen. But nitrogen is a non-reactive gas. Hence, we fill that into the food materials. So if oxygen comes, it will not react. It will not allow the food to react. Hence, the food is safe. Then, the last methods are rancidity can be retarded by keeping the food refrigerated. You cannot prevent rancidity, but you can slow down the action of rancidity by keeping the oil foods inside the refrigerator. So you people have, you might noticed any food or sambars or any curries that are prepared, if it is left out, we will keep that in refrigerator and then we will use. Which means rancidity is decreased if you keep it in a cool temperature. Then rancidity can be retarded by storing the food in airtight containers. So you don't allow the oxygen to enter the food. You prepared pickles. So earlier you might have noticed your mother or your grandmothers, they will put airtight containers or they will put some covers and then put the caps of the containers if pickles are stored, which is made of oil. Because we don't want the air to enter the pickle bottle. So that is one method. Last method is rancidity can be retarded by storing the food away from the light. So if you expose this oil food more to the light, then it gets rancid because the atmosphere contains oxygen and light will enhance the reaction. If sunlight falls on that material, oxygen will react more quickly. So avoid keeping oil foods in the open air. So let us say you open a chips packet, you eat off that completely, or after eating put a rubber band or a clutch to that. If you keep it open or if you keep that near the windows or outside your house where light is entering, it gets spoiled very soon, which is rancid. You get a pungent smell of that snack which is rancid in nature. Okay, that completes the chemical reactions and equations chapter. Okay.